Well, the NYSE Tech Summit bringing together C-suite level executives from NYSE listed companies and notable startup and VC leaders kicks off today in San Francisco. A full-day summit is on tap tomorrow on Thursday, and this gathering will feature networking, content, and collaboration, all in the name of driving enterprise innovation. Well, joining me now with more remotely is Alex Konrad. He's a founder and editor for Upstarts Media. Alex, thank you so much for getting up early on the West Coast, joining us from San Francisco this morning. As this tech summit gets ready to kick off, you're going to be part of it. What are you most looking forward to?
Yeah, the NYSE Tech Summit is a great opportunity to talk to leaders from a bunch of enterprise software businesses, banks, the types of folks who would be big customers for these startups. And I'm really excited to talk to Plaid and their COO, Eric Sager, about what it's like to be sort of a near IPO or IPO-ready private tech company in the current environment.
I'm looking forward to that as well. 10:40 a.m. on the schedule tomorrow, Alex. Of course, people probably know you from the many years that you spent at Forbes. You now have your own digital media startup here called Upstarts Media. What is the lens that you look at these companies through when covering them from a reporting standpoint?
Yeah, so Upstarts Media is focused on the startup ecosystem from inception through IPO. So these near IPO companies are now the big fish in my world, and I'm very interested in how they can retain talent, how they can keep innovative and still moving fast while being at that sort of near public status. And then I do like to check in with companies that have recently become public, like I wrote a story about Datadog making acquisitions in the startup space. Because let's not forget, these companies are often the acquirer or the destination for startups and investors looking for liquidity. So for me, these are now the companies that I see as both competing at the innovative side and then also buying and sort of becoming an exit at that sort of M&A side as well.
How advanced is the technology that these companies are offering in the private world today as we await their IPOs?
Everyone's trying to add AI to their tools, of course. I think a theme we will hear at the Tech Summit today and tomorrow is that every company is becoming an AI company. So whether you were a fintech or you were a DevOps tool 5 years ago, now you are also AI. But I think, what's really interesting is companies like Plaid, they were innovative and new 10 years ago. And now with these technologies and with kind of a new infusion of people, they're trying to reinvent themselves and be startups all over again. I think a big difference from early in my career a decade ago is that these more mature startups or tech companies are much better at keeping up with new trends and competing with those sort of young guns coming out of places like Y Combinator than the incumbents used to be 10, 20 years ago. They're moving a lot faster.
They definitely are moving faster, and it is a unique landscape right now, right? Because we know interest rates are still relatively high compared to where they were at least earlier in COVID, and of course in the wake of the financial crisis, and we have changes to trade policy. How are you finding that startups are navigating that? And how do you expect that conversation to be framed at the Tech Summit?
I think startups have a tough time because they're supposed to think in that 5 or 10-year time horizon. But at the same time, you can't ignore tariffs and trade policy. And you look at a company like Plaid, they were valued at $14 billion by the market a couple of years ago. They just repriced at around $6 billion, as we saw fintech stocks on the public side and also on the private side take a hit in recent months. And so I think, to some degree, you are bound to the market. You have to pay attention to the market you're in. But if you're the founder of one of these companies, or Eric, who I'll be talking to from Plaid, they have to really try to keep that long-term vision. There's a benefit in having not gone public on the New York Stock Exchange yet, in that they don't have to necessarily live as much quarter to quarter. And so they should take advantage of that while they can, trying to set up long-term processes that will pay off in those quarterly reports down the road.
Alex, we so appreciate you joining us early on the West Coast from San Francisco ahead of the NYSE Tech Summit in SF kicking off later today. That's Alex Konrad. He's the founder and editor for Upstarts Media.